9 types of people who hate loners. You're triggering them without knowing. Aristotle once said, "Whosoever is delighted in solitude is either a wild beast or a god." But if you are someone who finds peace in your own company, you've likely noticed that your silence often makes others incredibly loud. Welcome back to Spiritual Wisdom, where today we are diving deep into a fascinating psychological and spiritual phenomenon: the 9 types of people who are actually triggered by your solitude. Whether it's your self-sufficiency that intimidates them, or your inner stillness that mirrors their own chaos, you are likely affecting people in ways you don't even realize. As we explore these insights, I encourage you to reflect on how these dynamics play out in your own journey toward personal growth and happiness. Have you ever felt judged or misunderstood simply for preferring your own space? Let us know your story in the comments below. Your perspective might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Type 1. Validation addicts. In the profound journey of spirituality, one of the most jarring realizations is that your inner peace can inadvertently feel like a threat to those who are still trapped in the frantic noise of external validation. There exists a specific archetype, the validation addict, whose entire sense of identity is constructed upon the shifting sands of other people's opinions and constant emotional feedback. To these individuals, your quiet confidence and your choice to embrace solitude are not viewed as healthy personality traits. Instead, they are perceived as acts of defiance or a cold rejection of their very existence. This friction often intensifies during a spiritual awakening, as your frequency begins to shift away from superficial social performances and toward a state of authentic self-sufficiency. Because you no longer participate in the wearying exchange of social pleasantries or the performative interactions that fuel their ego, your silence becomes a vacuum that they desperately try to fill with anxiety. The validation addict lives in a state of perpetual hunger, constantly scanning their environment for praise, nods of approval, and the reassurance that they are enough. When they encounter a loner, someone who has found a sanctuary within themselves, it disrupts their entire internal economy. They might wonder why you aren't reacting to their presence or providing the emotional hit they require to feel visible, leading them to believe that your stillness is a loud, unspoken critique of their own neediness. As the metaphor goes, a quiet mind acts as a mirror to a noisy soul. By refusing to feed their ego, you force them to look at the emptiness they have been trying to outrun through constant social busywork. To the person who needs a crowd to feel alive, your ability to sit in a room alone without seeking a compliment feels like a superpower they cannot comprehend, making them interpret your lack of participation as arrogance or elitism. They operate on a belief system where value is only created through the eyes of others, whereas you have learned that true value is an internal resonance that requires no audience. This disconnect creates a palpable tension as your self-reliance exposes the fragility of their self-worth, making them resent the very peace you have worked so hard to cultivate. You must understand that their discomfort is rarely about your actions and almost always about the reflection you provide of their own lack of an inner foundation. In the realm of spirituality, you learn that you cannot be the constant source of oxygen for a gasping ego, nor should you feel guilty for the silence that serves as your sacred space. Your solitude is a temple of self-reflection that they are not yet equipped to enter, and their hostility is merely a defense mechanism against the realization that they are disconnected from their own spirit. By maintaining your boundaries and continuing to embrace your loner nature, you are demonstrating that it is possible to be whole without external scaffolding. Though they may label you as difficult or antisocial, you must remain anchored in your truth, recognizing that the friction they feel is simply the sound of their social masks cracking against the weight of your authenticity. Type 2. Social dominators. When you choose to embrace the life of a loner, you are not merely selecting a social preference. You are stepping into a profound journey of spirituality that often acts as an unintentional disruptor to the world around you. This is particularly true when you encounter social dominators, those individuals who survive and thrive on the rigid structures of hierarchy, control, and the constant feeding of their ego through public attention. To these people, the world is a stage where everyone must play a specific role to keep their spotlight burning bright. Yet your self-imposed distance shatters the illusion of their authority. Your spiritual development has likely led you to a place where you no longer crave the hollow validation of social standing. And this indifference is exactly what triggers a deep, visceral resentment within the dominator. They view the social landscape as a ladder, and by refusing to even stand on the bottom rung, you are effectively telling them that the ladder they have spent their lives climbing doesn't actually exist. As the powerful saying goes, the lion does not turn around when a small dog barks, and your refusal to react to their posturing or compete for their favor leaves them feeling powerless and exposed. You are triggering them without saying a word because your peace is not dependent on their permission, and your silence denies them the energy they need to sustain their perceived dominance. This friction occurs because your autonomy is a direct threat to the psychological currency of the social dominator who requires submissiveness from others to feel significant. While they are busy measuring their worth by how many people they can influence or command, you are busy cultivating an internal sanctuary that requires no external architect. This level of self-sufficiency is a hallmark of high-level spirituality, as it proves that you have found a source of fulfillment that is independent of the material or social world. When you walk into a room and remain unbothered by the power plays and whispers of the elite, you are inadvertently holding up a mirror to their insecurity, showing them that their power is a fragile construct that only exists if others agree to believe in it. They may attempt to label your solitude as arrogance or your quietness as a character flaw, but these are merely defensive mechanisms designed to protect their own ego from the realization that they cannot control you. You must understand that their anger is actually a form of unintentional praise. It is a recognition that you possess a level of freedom they cannot comprehend. By staying true to your path of spiritual development, you transform from a mere observer into a beacon of truth that exposes the emptiness of social vanity. Your indifference is not a weapon you use against them, but a byproduct of your commitment to a higher frequency of living, one where the soul is governed by internal light rather than external shadows. Are you ready to stop shrinking yourself to fit their hierarchy? If this message resonated, comment below. I choose inner sovereignty and claim your freedom from social domination. Type 3. Mind readers, control types. When you choose the path of the loner, you are inadvertently engaging in a profound act of rebellion against the modern social order, particularly against those who operate as psychological mind readers or control-oriented types. These individuals function on the belief that knowledge is power, and specifically that knowledge of your internal state gives them a sense of security and dominance. In the realm of spiritual wisdom, your preference for privacy is not seen as a deficit, but as a sacred fortification of your energy. Yet to a control seeker, this boundary feels like an impenetrable wall that triggers their deepest anxieties. They rely on the predictability of others to navigate their own lives. They need to see your cards, understand your motivations, and anticipate your reactions to feel that they are in command of the social environment. When you remain a mystery, you effectively strip them of their compass, leaving them feeling exposed and powerless in the face of your self-sufficiency. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once observed, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe, and by embracing your solitude, you are winning that struggle in a way that feels intensely threatening to those who need the tribe to be transparent and compliant. Your quietude acts as a mirror that reflects their own internal chaos back at them, forcing them to realize that they cannot influence what they cannot access. These control types often mask their insecurity with a facade of concern or curiosity, yet their true motivation is the need to eliminate the unknown variable that you represent. Because you do not seek their validation or participate in the typical social exchanges of gossip and oversharing, you disrupt the invisible hierarchy they attempt to build. In their eyes, your silence is not just peace. It is a tactical withdrawal that they interpret as a form of hidden judgment or a secret plot. This is where the beauty of spiritual wisdom becomes vital for you to understand, as it teaches that the discomfort of others is a reflection of their own spiritual fragmentation rather than a flaw in your character. You are providing them with a rare opportunity to confront their own need for control, even if they respond with resentment or labeling you as difficult or unreadable. The friction you experience with these types is actually a sign of your growing energetic strength, as you are no longer vibrating at a frequency that allows for easy manipulation. By staying centered in your own being, you are essentially telling the world that your internal peace is not up for negotiation and that you do not require a witness to feel whole. This self-contained nature is the ultimate nightmare for someone who thrives on reading people, because there is nothing for them to latch onto, no hooks of insecurity or mirrors of vanity to exploit. As Lao Tzu famously said, "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." And your journey into solitude is an enlightenment that bypasses the need for external surveillance. Every time you choose your own company over a hollow social obligation, you are reinforcing a boundary that protects your soul from being micromanaged by those who are afraid of what they cannot predict. You must realize that your refusal to be an open book is a powerful filter, naturally repelling those who only know how to love what they can control, and making space for the few who can respect the sacred depth of a quiet heart. Have you ever noticed people trying to control or interpret your silence. If this resonated with you, share your experience in the comments so others can learn from it. And if you're ready to reclaim your inner freedom, comment, "I choose my own truth," and walk this journey of self-awareness with us. Type 4. Bullies. When we observe the world through the lens of spirituality, we begin to see that solitude is not a void, but a reservoir of immense power that often unsettles those who are still shackled by their own insecurities. Bullies are the first to react with hostility toward the independent soul because their entire psychological framework is built upon the fragile foundation of social dominance and the desperate need for external validation. They actively target anyone who appears independent and unsupported, mistakenly perceiving your quiet self-reliance as a sign of weakness or social rejection. What they fail to comprehend is that your isolation is a conscious choice, a sacred space where you cultivate your spiritual awakening, and this lack of a tribe makes you an unpredictable variable in their controlled environment. They hate the fact that you do not need the group to feel significant, as your very existence proves that one can be whole without the permission of the collective. This triggers a deep-seated resentment because the bully is, in reality, the person most dependent on others. They require a victim to feel powerful and a gang to feel safe. When you walk alone with a sense of purpose, you are essentially holding up a mirror to their cowardice, showing them that their power is an illusion that only works on those who fear being alone. This dynamic brings to mind the old story of the lion and the hyenas. While the hyenas must hunt in a pack and create a cacophony of noise to feel brave, the lion is perfectly comfortable walking the plains in silence, confident in his own skin. Your silence is that roar. It communicates a level of self-mastery that the bully can only dream of. And because they cannot break your spirit or force you to beg for their acceptance, they resort to labels and aggression to mask their own feelings of inadequacy. In the realm of higher consciousness, we understand that hurt people, and the bully's vitriol is merely a projection of their own internal chaos. They are triggered by your lack of neediness because it robs them of their leverage. If they cannot threaten you with exclusion, they have no way to manipulate your emotions or your actions. This independence is a hallmark of a true spiritual awakening, where the soul realizes that the only approval worth seeking is the one found within. By refusing to participate in their hierarchy of drama, you become a glitch in the matrix of their social control. Furthermore, the bully's hatred is often fueled by a subconscious realization that your solitude is a form of protection. While they are busy maintaining a persona to fit into a group, you are stripping away the masks to discover your authentic self. This authenticity acts as a natural repellent to those who live in falsehood. They see your independence as a silent judgment of their dependency. And since they lack the tools to find peace within themselves, they try to destroy the peace they see in you. You are triggering them without even speaking a word, simply by proving that a human being can be happy, stable, and secure without the constant noise of a social circle. Every attempt they make to diminish you is actually a testament to your strength. They wouldn't try so hard to pull you down if you weren't already standing on a higher ground of self-awareness. As you continue to walk this path, understand that the friction you experience is a sign that your frequency no longer matches the low vibration tactics of those who seek to control others through fear. Your solitude is your fortress, and your refusal to be intimidated is the ultimate expression of a spirit that has finally found its home within itself. Type 5. Gossipers. When you walk through life with a quiet confidence and a preference for your own company, you unintentionally become a mirror that reflects the deepest insecurities of those around you, especially the gossipers. These individuals operate on a social currency fueled by the constant exchange of drama, secrets, and private information, seeing the world through a lens where everyone must be an open book for their entertainment. Your refusal to participate in these toxic cycles of hearsay doesn't just make you an outsider. It makes you a profound mystery that they find deeply unsettling and even suspicious. In the realm of spirituality, your silence is a fortress. Yet to those who thrive on noise, that same silence feels like a judgment or a hidden agenda. You are triggering them without saying a single word because your self-sufficiency proves that one can exist happily without the cheap dopamine hits provided by tearing others down. This friction is a vital marker of your spiritual development, as it highlights the gap between a soul that seeks truth and a mind that seeks distraction. By choosing not to feed the beast of public opinion, you are reclaiming your narrative and refusing to let your identity be dismantled and reconstructed by people who do not even know themselves. The gossiper views your privacy as a personal affront because it denies them the power they crave, the power to know, to judge, and to categorize you. When you do not offer up your life for consumption, you effectively starve their ego, leading them to fill the void with their own fearful projections and manufactured stories. You must understand that their hostility toward your loner nature is actually a confession of their own inability to sit in silence with their own thoughts. Your presence serves as a constant, uncomfortable reminder that there is a higher way to live, one rooted in integrity and internal peace rather than external validation and social maneuvering. As you deepen your commitment to your path, you will realize that being the subject of their whispers is actually a badge of honor, signifying that you have successfully detached yourself from the hive mind of negativity. This isolation is not a punishment, but a sacred space where you can cultivate your energy without the interference of those who would rather talk about people than ideas. By remaining steadfast in your solitude, you are teaching a silent, powerful lesson about the value of boundaries and the beauty of a life lived with intention. Every time you walk away from a group session of character assassination, you are reinforcing your own spiritual boundaries and protecting the sanctity of your inner world. The gossiper's world is small, limited by the boundaries of what others are doing, but your world is vast because it is built on the foundation of self-discovery and authentic connection to the universe. Do not be swayed by their attempts to label your mystery as malice or your independence as arrogance. Instead, view their suspicion as a clear sign that you are no longer vibrating at a frequency that allows for the manipulation of your spirit. Your journey as a loner is a testament to the fact that wholeness comes from within. And as you continue to grow, you will find that the right people, those who value depth and silence, will eventually find their way to you. Until then, embrace your role as a catalyst for their discomfort. knowing that your refusal to conform is the very thing that keeps your spirit free and your path clear. Subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on staying grounded, protected, and unbothered when others try to define you through gossip. Type 6. Noise-dependent extroverts. When you walk into a room and carry the weight of your own silence, you are doing far more than just minding your own business. You are inadvertently acting as a mirror for the noise-dependent extroverts who find your stillness utterly terrifying. These individuals are not merely social butterflies. They are people who have constructed their entire identities around the avoidance of the self, using constant chatter and external stimulation as a shield against the internal void. To them, your calm presence is not a virtue, but a confrontation, because it exposes the frantic inner unrest they spend every waking moment trying to suppress through social validation and mindless background noise. There is a deep and ancient spiritual wisdom in recognizing that your ability to exist without an audience is a superpower that highlights their greatest weakness: the inability to be alone with their own minds. As the renowned psychiatrist Carl Jung once noted, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Because these noise-dependent individuals are perpetually dreaming in the distractions of the external world, your awakened state of solitary peace feels like a cold splash of water to their ego. They perceive your lack of a need to talk as a vacuum that they feel a desperate, neurotic urge to fill, often becoming agitated or even resentful when you refuse to participate in their superficial rituals. This friction occurs because your frequency is tuned to a level of self-sufficiency that they cannot comprehend, making them feel as though your silence is a judgment of their chaos. In reality, you are simply comfortable in the great emptiness that spiritual traditions have praised for centuries, while they view that same emptiness as a monster waiting to consume them. You must understand that when they label you as aloof or boring, they are actually projecting their own fear of the silence that lives inside them, a silence that starts to scream the moment you stop talking. This dynamic is a fundamental clash between those who derive their power from the crowd and those who, like you, derive it from the source of their own being. By remaining centered and refusing to perform for their entertainment, you are upholding a sacred boundary that protects your energy from being drained by their bottomless need for distraction. You are a living testament to the fact that peace does not require a loud soundtrack. And while this may trigger their deepest insecurities, it also confirms that your path of solitude is one of profound strength and clarity. The more you embrace this role, the more you realize that their discomfort is not your burden to carry, but rather a sign that you have mastered the art of existing in a world that is often too loud to hear its own soul. Type 7. Emotional dumpers. In the profound journey of spirituality, the choice to embrace solitude often acts as a silent mirror, reflecting the unhealed shadows of those who have yet to find peace within themselves. Among those most triggered by a loner's presence are the emotional dumpers, individuals who navigate their lives by treating every social interaction as a dumping ground for their internal chaos. These people do not seek genuine connection or mutual growth. Instead, they view others as free, on-call therapists whose primary function is to absorb their psychological weight and validate their grievances. When you walk the path of a spiritual awakening, you develop a heightened sensitivity to energy, recognizing that your time and mental space are sacred resources that must be protected. However, to an emotional dumper, your firm boundaries do not look like self-respect. They look like a cold act of abandonment. Because they rely on the external world to process their internal noise, your refusal to play the role of the silent sponge creates a vacuum they don't know how to fill, leading to a deep-seated resentment that they often project back onto you. This dynamic creates a sharp, energetic friction because the loner's self-sufficiency serves as a constant, unintended critique of the dumper's dependency. While you have learned to sit in the stillness and face your own demons, the emotional dumper is constantly running from theirs, using the voices of others to drown out the whispers of their own soul. As the old wisdom suggests, he who cannot be alone with himself will always be a prisoner of the crowd. And when you break free from that crowd, you inadvertently expose their chains. They feel triggered because your independence suggests that they, too, are capable of self-healing, a responsibility they are desperate to avoid. By setting a boundary, you are essentially handing them back their own baggage, and to someone who has never learned how to carry their own load, this feels like an attack. They crave the fix of your attention to numb their pain, and when you deny them that outlet, the resulting silence forces them to look inward, a territory they find terrifying and alien. In the realm of spirituality, we understand that every interaction is an exchange of frequency, and your calm, centered energy can feel like a threat to someone whose identity is built on high-intensity drama and external validation. To illustrate this, consider the metaphor of a lighthouse. The lighthouse does not hunt down ships to save them. It simply stands tall and shines its light, allowing the ships to find their own way to the harbor. The emotional dumper, however, wants to crash into the lighthouse to stop their own tossing and turning. And when the stone walls of your boundaries hold firm, they feel rejected by the very light they sought. This conflict is a vital part of your spiritual awakening, as it teaches you that you are not responsible for the emotional hygiene of others. Your solitude is a sanctuary, not a prison. And while those who thrive on chaos may label your distance as arrogance or lack of empathy, it is actually the highest form of compassion. By refusing to enable their cycle of dumping, you are providing them with the only opportunity they have to develop their own inner strength and find the peace that can only be discovered in the quiet depths of one's own company. If this resonated with you, like this video and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights on protecting your energy and honoring your independence. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. And comment below. I choose emotional boundaries and inner peace. Type 8. Controllers. In the profound journey of your spirituality, you will eventually encounter the controller, a type of individual whose internal stability relies entirely on their ability to command the world around them. These people thrive on constant access and a predictable stream of compliance, viewing the people in their lives as extensions of their own will rather than independent beings. When you embrace your nature as a loner, you inadvertently become their greatest frustration because your autonomy serves as a direct threat to the fragile power dynamic they have constructed. While others may bend to their influence to avoid conflict, your comfort in solitude signals that you do not need their approval to feel complete, effectively stripping them of the leverage they use to maintain dominance. You are triggering them without even trying, simply because your self-sufficiency proves that their authority is an illusion that only works on those who fear being alone. This friction arises because a controller interprets your independence as a form of silent rebellion. Yet in the realm of your spiritual development, it is actually a testament to your inner strength. They demand transparency and immediate availability to soothe their own anxieties. But your preference for your own company creates a boundary they cannot easily penetrate. Every time you choose a quiet night of reflection over a social obligation you don't truly desire, you are asserting that your time belongs to you alone. This refusal to play the role of the submissive follower creates a vacuum in their lives that they desperately try to fill with guilt or manipulation. You must realize that their resentment is a wounded ego, reacting to the fact that it cannot find a hook in your soul to pull. As the saying goes, he who has conquered himself is a far greater victor than he who has conquered 1,000 men in battle. And your self-mastery is the very thing that makes a controller feel powerless. Living as an empowered loner means you have cultivated an internal ecosystem that doesn't require external permission to exist or thrive. For the controller, this is a terrifying concept because they cannot navigate a world where they cannot predict or dictate the movements of others. Your presence reminds them of their own inability to find peace within themselves, leading them to label your healthy boundaries as coldness or arrogance. By staying true to your path and refusing to provide the compliance they crave, you are not only protecting your own energy, but also teaching a silent lesson about the nature of true freedom. Your journey is about honoring the sacred space of your own mind. And while it may provoke those who seek to own you, it remains the most vital step in evolving into your highest, most authentic self. Type 9. Narcissists. Have you ever noticed that by simply choosing to be alone, you seem to stir up an unexplained resentment in certain people, as if your quiet presence is a direct challenge to their very way of life? It is a fascinating phenomenon where your independence acts as a mirror, reflecting back the insecurities of others. And through the lens of spiritual wisdom, we can begin to understand why your peace feels like a threat to their chaos. First among those who will find your solitude offensive are the narcissists, those individuals who navigate the world with an insatiable hunger for external validation and constant admiration. To a narcissist, other people are not individuals, but rather mirrors intended to reflect their own perceived greatness. And when you choose to walk your own path instead of joining their fan club, your lack of worship feels like a stinging act of disrespect. They require a steady supply of attention to maintain their fragile egos, and because you do not offer them the fuel they crave, they view your self-sufficiency as a personal insult or a sign that you think you are better than them. As Albert Einstein once profoundly noted, The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind. Yet to a person who fears their own inner emptiness, your ability to sit in that quietude feels like a silent judgment on their neediness. These individuals cannot comprehend a life that isn't centered around the gaze of others, and your refusal to participate in their drama triggers a deep-seated fear of being irrelevant. Beyond the narcissists, you will find that those who are deeply codependent or chronically insecure are also triggered by your loner lifestyle because your autonomy highlights their own inability to stand on their own 2 feet. They mistake your preference for solitude as coldness or rejection, failing to realize that your spiritual wisdom comes from a place of wholeness rather than a desire to exclude. You are likely triggering the people pleasers as well, who view your firm boundaries and comfort with being alone as a superpower they haven't yet mastered. They are exhausted by their constant need to accommodate others, and seeing you opt out of that social performance creates a friction they can't quite name. Then, there are the gossips and the busybodies who rely on social interconnectedness to spread their narratives. Because you are not part of the grapevine, they view you as a black box they cannot control or influence, which makes them deeply uncomfortable. Even the highly competitive can feel threatened by a loner, as they cannot win against someone who isn't even playing the game or seeking the same conventional trophies of status. You must understand that your energy is a rare currency in a world that is increasingly loud and fragmented. And when you protect that energy, those who are used to spending the energy of others feel a sense of loss. When you are comfortable in your own skin, you unintentionally expose the masks that others are forced to wear every single day. They hate that you don't need the things they have sacrificed their souls to obtain: the popularity, the constant noise, and the shallow social standing. As Ralph Waldo Emerson famously said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." And your commitment to your own truth is exactly what makes these 9 types of people so uneasy. You aren't doing anything to them, but your very existence as a self-contained unit disrupts their belief system that happiness must be found outside of oneself. By embracing your solitude, you are practicing a form of high-level spiritual growth that emphasizes internal peace over external noise. And while this will inevitably draw the ire of those who are still running from themselves, it is the most authentic way to live. So, the next time you feel that cold shoulder or that unexplained hostility from a coworker, a neighbor, or an acquaintance, remember that it is rarely about your character and almost always about their own internal struggle with the silence you have learned to love. In the end, it is important to remember that your choice to embrace solitude isn't a reflection of your worth, but a testament to your inner strength. While these 9 types of people may find your independence triggering, their reaction usually stems from their own insecurities or a lack of self-connection. By standing firmly in your own energy, you aren't just choosing peace, you are honoring your spiritual journey. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. To join our growing community of seekers, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom and hit the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming insights into the soul and the self. Thank you for watching. and stay true to your light. Quantum manifestation works backwards, and that's why it's so powerful. The future depends on what you do today. Mahatma Gandhi. If that's true, why does it often feel like we're constantly fighting against the current to achieve our deepest desires? Welcome back to Spiritual Wisdom, where today we're diving deep into a concept so profound it could completely rewire your approach to life. Quantum manifestation works backwards, and that's why it's so powerful. This isn't just about positive thinking. It's about embodying the future version of yourself right now. A principle that allows you to pull your desired reality toward you with irresistible force. But here's the big question. What is the one thing you are manifesting right now that you are already acting like you have? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, and let's unlock this ultimate spiritual shortcut to personal growth and lasting happiness. 1. The flaw of forward manifestation. Traditional manifestation often teaches you to project your desires into the future, to visualize a life you haven't yet lived, and to hold that image with intensity as if wanting it hard enough will force the universe to respond. But in the quantum field, wanting does not create alignment. It creates distance. The moment you declare that you desire something, you subtly affirm that you do not have it. This emotional tone of lack becomes the signal the quantum field receives, echoing back the vibration of absence rather than fulfillment. In the language of spirituality and spiritual awakening, this is the moment when your energy betrays your intention. You think you are calling abundance toward you, but your inner state quietly broadcasts separation from it. When you visualize the future from a mindset of wanting, you unintentionally strengthen the gap between who you are and who you hope to become. The quantum field reacts not to the picture you imagine, but to the identity you embody while imagining it. If your inner dialogue says, "I want wealth," the vibration being sent out is, "I am lacking wealth." If you say, "I want love," the deeper message is, "I feel alone." This mismatch between intention and identity creates energetic static that blocks the very reality you're trying to attract. It is not your dream that is the problem. It is the emotional frequency tied to the dream. You cannot manifest abundance while vibrating in longing, just as you cannot manifest confidence while vibrating in insecurity. The universe responds to coherence, not craving. Imagine standing on one side of a river, staring at the life you want on the opposite shore. Forward manifestation teaches you to focus intensely on that far side, hoping that your attention will somehow shrink the distance. But every time you remind yourself that your desired life is over there, you reinforce the feeling that you are still over here. The bridge does not shorten, it stretches. You begin to walk toward the future with the energy of someone endlessly chasing it. In quantum terms, this chasing becomes a self-confirming loop. You remain in the identity of a seeker, not a receiver, and so reality continues to mirror the experience of seeking. The flaw is subtle but profound. Forward manifestation assumes the future is something separate from you, something you must earn, reach, or persuade into existence. But the quantum field does not create from distance, it creates from resonance. Your state of being is the instruction you send into the hologram of reality. A person who vibrates as someone waiting for success cannot receive success, because waiting and receiving are incompatible frequencies. In spirituality and spiritual awakening, this is why desire alone is never enough. The universe responds not to what you hope for, but to what your energy already claims to be true. When your identity says, "I am already aligned with abundance," the field mirrors abundance. When your identity says, "I am whole," the field reconfigures around wholeness. This is the hidden flaw of forward manifestation. It makes you chase a version of yourself you have not yet embodied. The more you try to pull the future toward you, the more you energize the belief that the future is not yet yours. Quantum manifestation works differently because it bypasses the chase entirely. Instead of trying to drag the future into the present, it teaches you to become the version of yourself for whom that future is already natural. Once identity shifts, reality has no choice but to follow. Comment below. I am in the flow of backward manifestation. If you're ready to embrace this powerful new perspective and unlock your true potential. 2. Manifestation from outcome, not desire. Quantum manifestation teaches you that creating your reality begins with manifestation from outcome, not desire. Because the moment you shift from wanting something to living as the version of yourself who already has it, the entire field around you rearranges to match your inner state, allowing spirituality and spiritual development to become practical tools rather than abstract ideas. When you operate from desire, your energy quietly communicates lack, because every thought, every hope, every mental picture still comes from the belief that you are separate from what you want. But when you step into the outcome and embody the version of you who already has the relationship, the career, the stability, or the confidence, your energy transforms into a natural signal of completion and certainty. This subtle internal shift is what bends reality, because you are no longer begging life to give you something. Instead, you are aligning your behavior, your decisions, and your emotional energy with the identity of someone who lives in that reality every single day. By focusing on the end result, you stop obsessing over timelines, doubts, and obstacles, and you begin to make choices that reinforce the reality you are stepping into. As the you who already has the outcome does not act from fear or desperation, but from clarity, boundaries, and self-worth. This approach isn't about pretending or forcing your mind to believe something it doesn't. It's about allowing your nervous system to settle into the feeling of fulfillment so deeply that your actions naturally rise to match it. When you ask yourself, what choices would the version of me who already has this make? You begin to shift your standards and responses in ways that dissolve old habits and rewrite patterns that once held you back. You stop choosing relationships that drain you, opportunities that limit you, or thoughts that shrink you, because the identity you are now embodying simply has no space for experiences that contradict your expansion. Living from the outcome also teaches you to release the urge to constantly check for signs or proof, because the version of you who already has the blessing doesn't question whether it is coming. They live with a quiet certainty that radiates through every action and every emotion. This relaxed inner trust creates the very conditions that allow the manifestation to materialize as life responds to the steadiness of your internal signal rather than the anxiety of your waiting. Over time, synchronicities begin to appear. Opportunities align effortlessly, and people show up exactly when they are meant to. not because you chased them, but because you finally matched the frequency of the life you were calling in. The core lessons you carry forward are deeply simple, yet profoundly transformative. Shift from wanting into being by feeling and embodying the version of yourself who already holds the outcome. Let your daily decisions reflect that identity, even when it challenges old comfort zones. Trust that the quantum field responds to who you are, not just what you ask for. And recognize that manifestation is not about chasing something outside of you, but about becoming someone who naturally attracts and sustains what you desire. When you live from the outcome, your entire reality adjusts to the truth you've claimed, allowing your journey of spirituality and spiritual development to guide you into the version of your life that has been waiting for you to align with it. 3. Quantum coherence is paramount. The universe responds not to how intensely you wish for something, but to the vibrational frequency you hold most consistently, because your inner state is always broadcasting into the quantum field long before your actions ever do. And this is the foundation of spiritual wisdom. Albert Einstein once reminded us that everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. And when you finally understand this, you begin to realize that manifestation is not about forcing outcomes, but about becoming the version of yourself who naturally attracts them. Coherence happens the moment your thoughts, emotions, and unconscious expectations stop contradicting each other, and instead begin moving in a single unified direction, creating a stable internal signal that the quantum field cannot ignore. And Carl Jung described this energetic alignment when he said, "What you resist persists," because whatever emotional frequency you repeat, whether fear or certainty, lack or abundance, becomes the very blueprint your reality follows. As you shift into coherence, something remarkable begins to happen. The wish you once chased starts to feel familiar inside you, as if it already belongs to you. And this internal familiarity is what forces the external world to reorganize itself in your favor, not through magic, but through resonance, because the quantum field responds to identity rather than effort. When you embody the version of yourself who already lives the outcome you desire, you collapse possibility into form, making the unseen reorganize into the seen. And this is why quantum manifestation appears to work backwards. You feel the destination before you physically arrive there. And because that feeling is so stable and coherent, your environment must eventually catch up to match it. Coherence eliminates the energetic noise that keeps your desires at a distance. It replaces doubt with expectancy, anxiety with inner steadiness, and longing with embodiment, allowing you to step into a psychological and energetic posture that makes receiving feel natural rather than difficult. The moment your inner world rises to match the frequency of the life you want, you stop chasing outcomes and start drawing them toward you. Because coherence turns your energy into a magnet instead of a plea. Life begins answering you with synchronicities, aligned opportunities, unexpected clarity, and people who show up at precisely the right moment. Not because you forced anything, but because your frequency became so clear that the universe had no choice but to reflect it back. In this state, manifestation is no longer about hoping or trying. It becomes a quiet knowing, a deep internal agreement between who you feel you are and what you are calling in. You begin to understand that the universe is never withholding anything from you. It is always matching you, echoing you, mirroring the emotional signature you repeat day after day. And when that signature becomes coherent, the quantum field snaps into alignment with breathtaking precision. This is the power of resonance, the power of identity, and the power of coherence, an inner shift so profound that the outer world cannot help but rearrange itself to meet you exactly where your frequency already lives. Let this become your daily alignment, a practice that brings you into deeper quantum coherence with the life you're manifesting. Comment below, "I choose coherence," if you're ready to embody this power, and consider subscribing with notifications so you never miss a new lesson from spiritual wisdom. 4. Alignment over effort. Effortless flow. Effort and struggle always carry the hidden vibration of doubt, because the moment you try to force something into existence, you are unconsciously admitting that you do not yet believe it is yours. And this resistance slows the energetic path of manifestation. When you chase an outcome, you signal to the universe that it is separate from you, and this separation creates delay, stress, and emotional exhaustion. That is why, in spirituality and spiritual awakening, the most transformative shift you can make is learning to choose alignment instead of effort. Because alignment carries a quiet certainty, an inner knowing that what you desire is already moving toward you, even when you cannot yet see it. As Carl Jung reminded us, what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. And in the energetic world, resistance is created through fear-driven action, while alignment is created through awareness, coherence, and emotional clarity. Alignment means you no longer push against the flow of your life, but instead regulate your inner state, refine your focus, and hold the frequency of what you desire with calm conviction, allowing the result to unfold naturally. When you stop trying to make things happen, you free your energy from panic and impatience, and the universe can finally respond to you without interference because your vibration becomes stable and receptive. Surrender becomes the key, not a passive acceptance, but an intentional release of tension, a willingness to trust that the path is already forming beneath your feet. You shift from force to flow, from gripping to allowing, from effort to embodiment. In this space, manifestation accelerates because nothing is blocking it. Your energy is no longer fighting itself. Quantum manifestation works backwards. You do not achieve the outcome and then feel aligned. You feel aligned first, and the outcome mirrors that alignment. Instead of chasing certainty, you become the version of yourself for whom the outcome is natural. Instead of pushing through doubt, you eliminate the doubt that made pushing necessary. When your energy is coherent, your external reality organizes itself with surprising ease because the universe responds to your identity, not your effort. The moment alignment becomes your priority, manifestation becomes effortless, not because life becomes easier, but because you stop resisting the deeper intelligence that has been guiding you all along. 5. The observer effect and timeline collapse. In spirituality and spiritual development, the observer effect reveals that your awareness is never passive. It is the very force that selects which path you step into. Quantum physics shows that when you direct your consciousness toward a specific outcome, you collapse the field of endless possibilities into a single reality that responds to the state you hold within yourself. When you choose to embody fulfillment rather than longing, the quantum field no longer treats your desire as a distant possibility, but as a stabilized frequency that must take form. This is why anchoring the end state is so powerful. Your internal stance becomes the blueprint that the external world quietly rearranges itself around. As you hold the emotional signature of the life you want, you stop chasing after outcomes and begin drawing them toward you, because the field cannot contradict the identity you consistently return to. The more you stand in the energy of "it is already mine," the more your world begins to mirror that certainty. You are not pretending or forcing anything. You are shifting from being someone who is waiting to someone who is living from the reality they have chosen. This change in orientation dissolves resistance, eliminates the sense of distance between you and what you want, and allows events, people, and opportunities to align with surprising speed and precision. This is why quantum manifestation appears to work backwards. Instead of moving step by step toward your desires, you first occupy the version of yourself who already has them, and from that identity, the path unfolds with far less struggle. You become the cause rather than the seeker. Your emotional baseline acts as a tuning fork that stabilizes a specific timeline, and every time you choose calm confidence over doubt, or alignment over fear, you strengthen the reality you want to experience. The outer world, which once seemed rigid, reveals itself as responsive and echo, not a command. Understanding this shifts the way you engage with your life. External circumstances no longer determine what is possible. Your internal state does. You stop reacting to appearances and begin selecting meanings that match the future you intend to live. You start to notice that when your inner world is organized, your outer world follows. Instead of asking, "When will things change?" you ask, "What am I choosing to observe right now?" Because your observation is what sets the trajectory of your timeline. In every moment that you return to the feeling of fulfillment, you reinforce the reality you want until it stabilizes around you as something solid, tangible, and undeniable. If you're ready to use this backwards power to shape your life, don't forget to subscribe for continuous quantum manifestation wisdom. 6. Embody the end state, the already done principle. To embody the end state is to step into a powerful inner truth where you no longer hope your desire will come, because you already feel the reality of it living inside you. This technique asks you to dissolve the idea that manifestation is something you wait for, and instead invites you to understand that creation begins the moment you internalize the emotional, mental, and energetic frequency of what you want. When you hold that frequency consistently, you close the gap between someday and now, because you are no longer vibrating as someone who is trying to achieve the desire. You are becoming the person who naturally lives it. As Neville Goddard said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled," and that simple shift changes everything, because the unconscious mind begins organizing your thoughts, behaviors, and opportunities around the identity you have claimed. This is why the already done principle is so transformative. It moves your focus away from the outcome and into the version of yourself who already embodies it. In the language of spiritual wisdom, this is alignment rather than effort, resonance rather than chasing. When you think as the fulfilled version of yourself, you make decisions differently. When you feel as that version, your emotional patterns shift. And when you act from that identity, your outer world slowly shapes itself to match the inner blueprint. Carl Jung understood this deeply when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Because your unconscious identity always manifests before your conscious desires do. If you want something new, your inner self must evolve into someone who expects it, feels safe with it, and sees it as natural. You embody the end state by stepping into quiet confidence rather than doubt, presence rather than impatience, and certainty rather than fear. It is not about pretending or forcing positivity. It is about allowing your system to remember what it feels like to be whole, worthy, successful, loved, or abundant. When those feelings become familiar, your nervous system no longer resists them, and your energy field stops contradicting your intentions. You are no longer praying to the universe. You are communicating with it through alignment, through identity, through embodied truth. The more often you return to that feeling of already done, the stronger your resonance becomes, and the faster the physical world moves to mirror it. Embodying the end state is not simply visualization. It is a shift in posture, emotion, expectation, and selfhood. It is waking up and asking yourself, how would I carry myself if it were already mine? And then living from that answer. When you change the internal atmosphere of your being, reality adjusts around you with surprising precision. In quantum terms, you collapse the timeline by choosing the version of yourself you are ready to inhabit now. And everything you desire begins moving toward you because you have finally moved into alignment with the version of yourself that already holds it. 7. Release control and trust the how. Releasing control and trusting the how is the core of quantum manifestation. Because instead of chasing outcomes or trying to force the universe into your preferred timeline, you shift into a state of inner certainty where the reality you want is treated as already done. And this shift aligns your energy far more powerfully than effort ever could. When you choose the reality as already done, you quietly declare within yourself that this outcome is now your truth, not a someday wish. And this simple decision begins changing the way you think, speak, and interpret your life because you're no longer asking for it. You're aligning with it, like tuning into a frequency that has always existed. As this inner choice settles, you naturally move into the second step, which is to identify completely with this reality by embodying the feelings, thoughts, and behavior of the version of you who is already living it. Instead of forcing excitement or pretending, you ask practical questions like how you would move through your day if this desire were already secured, which habits you would release, and which choices would feel natural to the fulfilled version of yourself. And through these micro adjustments, your nervous system begins adopting the emotional tone of that new identity. This embodiment is not dramatic or imaginary. It is a subtle but powerful recalibration of your inner state. And each time you return to those aligned thoughts and feelings, you strengthen your connection to the future you've chosen. Only then does the third step become possible, releasing all control over how it will unfold and allowing the quantum field to handle the details, because gripping tightly around the how signals doubt and keeps you aligned with the version of you who does not yet have what you want. The moment you stop demanding clarity about the path and instead trust that life will orchestrate the timing, opportunities, and connections in ways your rational mind cannot see, your energy becomes receptive rather than resistant. This surrender is not inaction. It is aligned action guided by intuition rather than fear, because forced action feels heavy and frantic, while inspired action feels like a quiet inner yes, even if it stretches you. Every time your mind spirals into, what if it doesn't happen? Or, what if I miss my chance? You return to the framework. The reality is chosen, the identity is embodied, and the path is entrusted to the field that sees far beyond your limited perspective. With each repetition, you build a deeper spiritual steadiness, one that strengthens your spirituality and matures your spiritual awakening, because you stop micromanaging the universe and start collaborating with it. As your state becomes more coherent, clear intention, aligned identity, surrendered trust manifestation accelerates not through force, but through resonance. And what once felt distant begins arriving in elegant, unexpected ways, simply because you finally allowed the how to unfold without interference. We hope this exploration has revealed why quantum manifestation works backwards and highlighted the transformative power of releasing control over the how. If you are ready to embrace this wisdom and trust the universe to deliver your desires, comment, "I release," below. Your journey is important to us, and your feedback helps us create more empowering spiritual wisdom for you. So, there you have it. The profound spiritual wisdom that unlocks quantum manifestation is the realization that it fundamentally works backward. It's not about forcing the future. It's about seeing your desired outcome as already complete, shifting your inner state in the present moment, and allowing the universe to rearrange itself to align with that established reality. This principle of reverse causation is precisely why this technique is so powerful and effective. If this deep dive into the true nature of manifestation resonated with you and helped you understand the power of your present consciousness, please give this video a like. Don't forget to share this powerful spiritual wisdom with anyone else on their journey. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos as we continue to explore the deepest truths of the universe and your own incredible potential. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.